Hello there, it's Samantha. Welcome back to my channel, or if you're here, hi, my name is Samantha, as I just said, and this is my channel where I talk all about books. I still did it, even though I'm holding a drink. Anyway, today I'm coming to you with another recent reads video. So I recently switched to doing these instead of wrap-ups, but this is kind of like part 2 of my June wrap-up. So if you want to see my first recent reads, I will link it up in the card. I never know which side it is. You know, every time I edit a video where I'm doing that, I then realize which side it is. And then I forget again. It's gonna be in the card. I kind of want to do these instead of monthly wrap-ups just because I don't like waiting until the end of the month to film, because then I often forget things about the plot. So let's just get into it. Before we do get started, I want to say it's freaking hot in England today. So I'm gonna be sweating this whole time. It's just a bad day to film. So oddly, a lot of the books in this video are going to be from 2 genres I don't normally read from. The first one being middle grade and the second one being nonfiction. I don't know what's been going on, but that's what's happened. So the first book I'm going to talk about is a middle grade book, and that is Nevermoor by Jessica Townsend. This is the first book in the Trials of Morgan Crow trilogy. This follows our main character Morgan, and she was born on this cursed day, and she's destined to die on her 11th birthday. But at the strike of midnight on her birthday, she gets whisked away by this man called Jupiter North to this magical place called Nevermoor, where basically she's invited to join this society called the Wondrous Society, and in order to join the society, she has to compete in 4 trials and show that she's got this magical talent, which she doesn't have. I really enjoyed this book. This was so much fun. It was very whimsical, but not too whimsical because I don't like too much whimsy. There is a limit. It does exist. Anyway, I really loved Morgan as character. I thought she was really funny. Like, this book was so humorous. I really loved all the characters. I loved the fact that we had a talking cat. It was brilliant. I loved that so much. And for some reason, I love the trope of having trials. It's like one of my favorite plot lines. So I just loved this. I really enjoyed Jessica Townsend's writing style, and it really put me in that world. It was very immersive. I could picture everything beautifully. And yeah, it was very humorous and fun. I ended up giving it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Loved it. I would definitely be continuing on with the series. I will say it's a little bit darker than I was expecting. Like, not like violent or anything, but it just like, it had a darker atmosphere than I was expecting. Kind of similar to like City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab. So if you like that, I think you might like this. It just had that kind of dark gothic sort of feeling to it. It was really good, and I'm very much looking forward to continuing on with the rest of the series. The next book that I read was The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. I initially got this book from my library, and I opened up my copy on Libby, and it was in German, and I was like, what? So then I looked on script, and they happened to have a copy, which was great because I was like, I can't read German. Anyway, but if you don't know what this book is about, this is Elizabeth Acevedo's first book, and I think she writes mostly in verse. I think With the Fire on High might not be in verse, but The Poet X and Clap When You Land are both in verse, which if you watch my last recent reads, you'll know that I actually love poetry. I just never read it. So before I even started it, I thought I would probably love it. And this book follows our main character, Xiomara. I think she lives in New York, and her parents are from the Dominican Republic. And it's basically about her. It's kind of like a coming of age story. It's about her falling in love for the first time. It talks about like religion and sexuality and women's role in society, all relating to kind of like the Dominican outlook on all of this. And it talks about familial relationships, and Xiomara has a twin. I just really loved it. I thought the writing was beautiful. It's a very quick read. I almost finished all of it in one night, but then I was like, no, I'm gonna go to sleep and I'll finish this tomorrow morning. So yeah, I read it in like less than 24 hours. I really enjoyed this story. It's something I've learned a lot about in my, like, during my course. So like the Hispanic attitude towards women in society, and also like with the themes of religion and stuff like that. It's a topic that I know a fair amount about, but it's always obviously interesting to learn more about it, especially from an own voice's point of view. I loved this. I don't really have much else to say. Just read this book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and I will be reading With the Fire on High ASAP because I have the audiobook, and then I'll be reading Clap When You Land because I have the physical book, and I can't wait. Next, I read the middle grade book King and the Dragonflies by Casey Calendar. This is the same author who wrote Felix Ever After, which I haven't been able to get my hands on yet, but I really want to. But I read this for the Queer Blackathon, which was a 48-hour readathon, which started on Juneteenth, and this was hosted by Jessie from Bowties and Books, and there were also co-hosts, which I will link everyone down below. So I actually managed to read 1 book for this readathon because I just wasn't really in a reading mood. I was kind of feeling like a reading slip was coming on. But yeah, I listened to the audiobook version of this, and this is a middle grade story which follows our main character, King. King's older brother recently died, and he is convinced that he has come back to him in the form of a dragonfly. And it also explores King's relationship with his old friend Sandy, who his older brother told him that he shouldn't be hanging out with anymore because Sandy is gay. And so yeah, it just kind of explores the relationships, and it explores the intersectionality of being black and gay in the south of the US. And it was set near New Orleans. Lots of talk about racism and homophobia. I did a terrible job explaining this, so let me just do a little voiceover. So Sandy goes missing, and King is the only person who knows where Sandy is and the reason why Sandy's gone missing. So that's also a plot point. There are a lot of triggers for this book, so I'll leave them all down below. And it also explores the themes of grief, obviously, as King's brother just recently died. This book was a hard one for me to rate because I enjoyed it a lot, but for some reason I just find this disconnect with me and middle grade contemporary. But when it comes to middle grade contemporary, it's just not really my thing. I do love contemporary, but for some reason just the middle grade contemporary is just something that I just don't connect to as much as like YA contemporary. I did really enjoy this, and I'm so glad that books like these exist, like for this age group. So I'm very glad that this book exists. I did enjoy it a lot, but it was just not like a new favorite or anything. So I ended up giving it 3.5 out of 5 stars. I also think maybe I would have enjoyed this more if I had read it physically, just because like there was nothing wrong with the audiobook. The narrator did a great job and I did really enjoy it, but I think I would have like absorbed it more and would have been more impacted if I read it physically. I think maybe this one is like a timing issue, but I mean 3.5 is still a really good rating. I enjoyed that and I would highly recommend it, but it just like wasn't a new favorite or anything. Now we're moving on to the nonfiction. As I said, I have 2 nonfiction books to talk about. The first one is about climate change, which is actually something that concerns me a lot and is a topic that I'm very passionate about. Time for a little backstory. I study Spanish and Latin American studies at university with a minor in English language, which I don't talk about that much, but I do study that. And every so often I get the opportunity to do a presentation or an essay about whatever topic I want, as long as it's in Spanish. And every single time I choose an environmental issue because I'm like, this is concerning and everyone should know about it. So if I get the opportunity to do a presentation where I can talk to people about the environment, I always do it. As I said, it's a topic I'm very passionate about. And a family friend lent this book to my mum, and my mum left it on the table, and I was like, don't leave books lying around with me here. And so I just picked it up and started reading it and was like, okay, I should actually read this because I haven't really done very much climate change research in a while. So I decided to pick it up, and that was called The Future We Choose: Surviving the Climate Crisis by Christiana Figueres and Tom Rivett-Carnac. So this is a nonfiction book about climate change and the hypothetical world that we would live in 2050 if we don't do anything, and the hypothetical world we would live in if we did do what we need to do. So yeah, the first part talked about that. The second part talked about changing your ideology. And the third part was 10 actions that we need to take to change the world. This book was not that great. I don't think that this is a good one to read if you're serious about learning about climate change. Like, it was nothing special. It was nothing new. I think it's because I'm like not like a beginner at this. Like, if you were to label it like beginner, intermediate, advanced, I'm probably intermediate when it comes to climate change. If you are brand new to learning about climate change, this may be a good place to start, potentially. It was very easy to read, but that was because it also lacked facts, which really annoyed me, because it's like, if a skeptical person is reading this book and, you know, they don't believe in climate change or whatever, which is like the stupidest thing. It's literally, it's everywhere. You can see it. There's scientific research and it's been proven. But yeah, if you're like a climate change denier and you read this, there are like barely any facts to back up any of the points. And like, it's not that I disagree with the points, but like, you need the facts in there to convince the skeptics, and they just weren't there. And I just didn't enjoy part 2 of this book, the bit about changing your ideologies. Like, I understand what they were trying to do, but just for me personally, I don't know, it was just like pointless. I was like, that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to learn about what to do. I think that if you are a beginner in your climate change journey, this would maybe be a good one for you. But if you have a bit of a knowledge of it, I don't really think you'll gain anything out of it. I don't know. I just personally didn't find this particularly useful. I'm not mad that I read it or anything, because also it means I get to talk about it on my channel, which is great. Save the planet. And the last book that I read was another nonfiction, and that was White Rage by Carol Anderson. I was reading this for the Blackout Buddy Read, and that was hosted by Books with Shay, so I will link her channel down below. But yeah, this is a nonfiction book which covers racism in America from the Civil War to present, and about all of the laws that have been put in place by white people to stop Black people from advancing. I'm not American. I've never really learned about American history that much, so it's not a topic that I'm well versed in. And obviously this is something that everyone should be learning about. And not just in America, I also need to learn about racism in the UK, which is something I'm definitely going to be doing. I think that this is a really useful book, especially like not even just if you're American learning about your own history, but also if you're from other countries learning about American history and learning how this has become such a huge problem, or well, I mean, has always been such a huge problem in the US. I think this is a very important read and a very impactful read, and I definitely recommend that everyone reads it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I actually wasn't sure if I was going to rate nonfiction or not, but I did think that if I did rate nonfiction, it would be based off of like usefulness. So this gets a 5 out of 5 stars because I think that everyone should read this. And this gets a 3 out of 5 stars because it's not that useful. With all that being said, as usual, my description will have links to how you can support the Black Lives Matter movement, so do it. So those were the 5 books that I read recently. Let me know what books you've read recently. If we've read anything the same, let me know your thoughts. I would love to know. But that is all that I have for today's video. So I hope you liked, and if you did, please hit a thumbs up. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe down below. But as I said, that's all. So I'll see you very soon with another one. Bye.